she was still able to make it in time at the last moment. At the same time, she also knew the reason why Lin Bai wanted her to stall for a while. Although Lin Bai's attack just now was extremely powerful, the forward swing was really too long. Furthermore, Luo Ningyu's sharp senses discovered that the attack that Lin Bai unleashed through the small cauldron was not considered fast. Perhaps it was because his power was condensed within it. If the demon flood dragon had not charged at Lin Bai crazily, and if they had not delayed for a while, with the speed that the demon flood dragon displayed, they would have been able to easily dodge that attack. Little Blue let out a soft cry and propped herself up on the ground with one hand. Her petite body moved agilely, and after her tail hooked onto a branch in the air, she landed steadily on Lin Bai's shoulder. The entire process was very smooth. Lin Bai nodded his head in satisfaction at Little Blue. As Little Blue's strength increased, its advantages in agility, as well as her control over her limbs and tail, also increased steadily. This was what Lin Bai wanted to see, Little Blue's direction of growth. Whoosh! A demon chi wind blade cut through the night and attacked the three of them. Lin Bai took out the small cauldron and placed it on the wind blade. He caught it steadily. There weren't even any scratches on the small cauldron. Luo Ningyu glanced at the small cauldron and looked away. That attack, just now, didn't kill the demon flood dragon? Maybe that attack helped it neutralize a lot of the force. Lin Bai was quite calm. What is that thing? Luo Ningyu's cherry-like mouth grew wide. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock as she pointed forward. Lin Bai looked in the direction Luo Ningyu pointed and saw that the rolling demon flood dragon had stopped at some point. A pair of scarlet eyes seemed to be spewing flames as it stared intently at the two humans and one beast. Its bloody mouth opened wide and saliva continuously flowed on the ground. The demonic aura around the demon flood dragon had already reached its peak. The current demon flood dragon gave off a special kind of pressure. This was something it had never displayed before. Lin Bai's move just now didn't cause any substantial damage to the demon flood dragon. This thought appeared in Luo Ningyu's mind, but it was quickly swept away by her. The demon flood dragon was currently standing with its upper body upright, looking down at the three of them. On the demon flood dragon's forehead, there was a layer of scales that had already turned into a bloody mess, and fresh blood was continuously flowing out. Then why was the demon flood dragon's strength rising steadily? Luo Ningyu was already somewhat at a loss. She had a very bad feeling, and it welled up in her heart, causing her to subconsciously hold the thin sword tightly. Not only that, Little Blue was also like this. Every hair on its body was now standing up straight. Its eyes were fixed on the demon flood dragon, and it didn't dare to slack off even a little. You two step back first. Lin Bai's voice pulled Luo Ningyu and Little Blue back from their uneasy state. But Luo Ningyu opened her mouth and was about to say something when Lin Bai interrupted her. Believe me, I don't plan to die so easily. Luo Ningyu glanced at Lin Bai. Lin Bai's eyes were as calm as water. This meant that he was not only very calm, but also somewhat confident. Okay. Luo Ningyu nodded. She grabbed the thin sword with her backhand and picked up Little Blue with her other hand. You won't be able to help him much here. Instead, you'll be a burden. Little Blue was originally unwilling, but after hearing Luo Ningyu's words, it quieted down and allowed Luo Ningyu to bring it far away. Seeing that Luo Ningyu had already retreated to a safe position, Lin Bai chuckled. Heh, don't really spew fire from your eyes and blind yourself. When the time comes, you won't even be able to find me for revenge. Lin Bai had already guessed what the demon flood dragon was going to do and had already come up with a countermeasure. The demon chi on the body of the demon flood dragon had already reached its peak. At this moment, it was like boiling water, rolling and surging. And every time the demon chi rolled and surged, the degree of decay on the body of the demon flood dragon became deeper and deeper. The demon flood dragon was similar to a cultivator, burning their blood essence to achieve the effect of temporarily increasing their cultivation. It was a method of harming oneself and to attack others. However, although the flesh and blood of the demon flood dragon gradually began to rot, revealing the dense white bones inside, it didn't seem to cause any substantial harm to the demon flood dragon. If the flesh and blood of this demon flood dragon rotted and collapsed, eventually turning into a demon flood dragon with only its skeleton and demon chi, Would it live or die? A few questions appeared in Lin Bai's mind, but the demon flood dragon opened its bloody mouth and swooped down toward him. Lin Bai could only temporarily put these questions to the back of his mind. Lin Bai's feet swayed, and he was about to dodge to the other side to avoid the demon flood dragon's bloody mouth. But just as he took a step, in the direction where he dodged, a tail wrapped in demonic chi attacked. Lin Bai turned his toes and stomped on the ground, leaping high into the air. At this moment, a black light swirled on the right angle of the demon flood dragon, and a small ball of black light flew over. How is this possible? Luo Ningyu subconsciously took a step forward, but in the end, she endured it. She did not expect that the demon flood dragon would undergo a fundamental change in the battle. This tight confrontation had completely sealed off the direction that Lin Bai had dodged to. If Lin Bai was hit by one of the attacks, with the demon flood dragon's speed, it would not give Lin Bai a chance to catch his breath. It would definitely decide the victor in one breath. The demon flood dragon's face revealed a fanatical expression. In its eyes, this ant in front of it was already helpless. Lin Bai waved the long sword in his right hand forward. The long sword shattered bit by bit, and the black light disappeared into space. However, just as this attack was launched, the right angle of the demon flood dragon once again flashed with light, and two more attacks came attacking. Not only that, the demon flood dragon's tail, which had pounced on empty air, had already come from the bottom to the top, slapping towards Lin Bai's body. Luo Ningyu looked at the scene in front of her in disbelief. She did not care about what Lin Bai said and rushed towards Lin Bai's direction. Little Blue was the same. But suddenly, a golden light burst forth and swallowed the demon flood dragon and Lin Bai. This golden light was like a sun, illuminating the entire mountain as if it was daytime. Luo Ningyu narrowed her eyes and looked directly at the golden light. She wanted to see it clearly, but it was all in vain. The golden light dissipated bit by bit, revealing a person, a demon flood dragon. Lin Bai was currently standing on the demon flood dragon's body. One of his hands stretched forward, and the place where his hand stretched out should have been the demon flood dragon's head. However, at this moment, there was only rotting flesh, dense white bones, and wild blood. Who? Lin Bai wiped the sweat off his forehead. It was really a close call just now. At the last moment, he planned to give the demon flood dragon an opening and take advantage of the opponent's attack to attack the wound on the demon flood dragon's head. Next, it's how to break the formation. Phew, it's finally settled. Can you contact that helper of yours? Lin Bai landed steadily in front of Luo Ningyu and Little Blue. Little Blue climbed onto Lin Bai's body with a face full of joy. It did not care about the bright green blood on Lin Bai's body and the demon flood dragon's minced meat on his body. All right, I'm fine. Lin Bai could not help but laugh. He rubbed Little Blue's head hard. Behave yourself. Little Blue revealed a satisfied expression as Lin Bai rubbed it. Only then did it jump off his shoulder and onto the ground. Luo Ningyu? After Lin Bai greeted Little Blue, he looked at the silent Luo Ningyu with a puzzled expression. Luo Ningyu suddenly felt a warm current in her eyes. She turned her body slightly, and in the next second, she turned around. Her face was as calm as water as she said, "Okay, let me contact him." Luo Ningyu took out the jade pendant again. The jade pendant was like a glowing beetle, shining in the darkness. Finally, there is news. What happened just now? What did I miss? Damn it, I missed it again. Spiritual power surged in Luo Ningyu's hand, and she was about to cut off the communication with the jade pendant when the man on the other end of the jade pendant shouted, "Ahem, tell me about the situation on your side. I'm also a little curious. You don't have to cut it off so easily, do you?" The man's voice was rarely serious. Luo Ningyu said softly, "Let me tell you. The situation on our side is not very good right now. Up until now, the leader of the enemy has not been seen." As Luo Ningyu spoke, Lin Bai took out a set of clean clothes and came to the tree behind Luo Ningyu. He threw away the dirty clothes on his body, and a ball of fire appeared in his palm to burn them into ashes. Lin Bai took out another water bag and washed away the stinky blood on his face. Only then did he feel refreshed again. Heh, I didn't expect that the great Luo Ningyu wouldn't meet the enemy behind the scenes until now. If I were there. Humph. The man only acted half cocky this time. Continue. Only then did Luo Ningyu tell the man everything about her and Lin by sneaking into the Black Cloud stockade, being ambushed by a group of people, and finally entering the mountain. She also told him everything about the mountain and the demon flood dragon. The other party was silent for a long while. Not only was he thinking of a plan, he was also in a state of shock. After a long while, the other party finally uttered a few words, and a weak voice sounded, Flood dragon? A demonic flood dragon? Cough cough. I once killed a demonic flood dragon as well, but that was all in the past, so I won't bring it up. I mentioned before that the mountain you're on is an altar, right? Luo Ningyu nodded. Yes. Do you have a way to break the formation? It would be best if it can sabotage their plans too. Luo Ningyu saw from the corner of her eyes that Lin Bai had already arrived beside her. He was completely focused on the jade pendant, and his eyes were filled with contemplation. Of course I do. It's a good thing that I'm here to help you guys. Haha. Long story short, you guys know a law, right? Luo Ningyu frowned slightly. She did not like this kind of suspense. Lin Bai was very straightforward. He shook his head. I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't know. After all, I haven't said it yet. That law is that when things reach their extreme, they will turn against each other. When things reach their extreme, they will turn against each other? Luo Ningyu frowned even more. Didn't you say that the demonic aura on that mountain is the densest place you have ever seen? I want to use this as a point to help you break the formation. It just so happens that you've killed a demonic flood dragon. With the demonic flood dragon, breaking the formation will be much easier. There should be an orb contaminated by the demon chi in the body of the devil flood dragon. Take it out and break it into small pieces first. Listen carefully to the next steps. Don't make any mistakes. Lin Bai endured the stench and stuffed his hand into the body of the demonic flood dragon, fumbling around. Why did I have to change my clothes just now? Lin Bai couldn't help but feel confused. Fortunately, it didn't take long for him to grab a round bead and pull it out. A pitch-black bead that seemed to swallow all the light appeared. As soon as the bead appeared, the surrounding demonic chi formed a cyclone with the bead as the center. It continuously surged into the bead. That's it. Lin Bai nodded. Luo Ningyu was also ready, holding 16 small flags in her hands. Soon, Little Blue was also carrying a dead spirit beast the size of a mountain, heavily throwing it on the ground. Then, according to what the person on the other side of the jade pendant had said, they built another formation with 16 small flags on the inside of the formation at the top of the mountain. I'll say the details again. You have to confirm it without any mistakes. First, the man on the other side of the jade pendant also became serious. No problem. Lin Bai nodded after confirming it again and again. Then the last thing is to put the pieces of the devil pearl on each flag. Lin Bai did it silently. Finally, throw the flesh and blood into the center of the array and drop 3 drops of blood essence. Little Blue placed the huge body in the center of the formation while Lin Bai poured out 3 drops of blood essence. The final and most crucial step. Following the instructions of the jade pendant, Lin Bai left the mountaintop with quick steps. Is it useless? Why isn't there any reaction? Luo Ningyu looked at the mountaintop, but it was completely silent. There was no reaction at all. How can there be no response? No, even if there is a response, it's you guys. Suddenly, the entire mountain was filled with hundreds of millions of howls and howls. The demonic chi at the top of the mountain was as wild and violent as a turbulent flow, filling every part of the mountain. Lin Bai hurriedly channeled a trace of spirit energy into the small cauldron. With a buzz, the small cauldron emitted rays of golden light. The golden light enveloped the 2 humans and 1 beast, preventing them from being eroded by the demonic chi. The flowers, plants, and trees began to wither, and the soil became dry and cracked. Soon after, the withered flowers, plants, and trees were dyed with a layer of black. They gradually swelled and grew, and their branches and leaves continued to grow. The cracked soil was also dyed with a layer of black, and it shattered into pieces. Crack, crack, crack. Crisp cracking sounds came from the direction of the mountain peak. Not only that, there were also visible cracks in the sky. Moonlight poured in from the cracks, revealing bits of the starry sky. It's broken. Lin Bai heaved a sigh of relief. Even though the appearance of the mountain was getting more and more strange, even though the demonic chi on the mountain was dozens of times more vigorous than before, they could finally get out of the array formation. No, look! Luo Ningyu cried out in surprise. The cracked sky was gradually repaired, and the moonlight disappeared bit by bit. The dome gradually disappeared into the darkness. Let's go. Lin Bai grabbed Luo Ningyu's hand and ran toward the nearest direction. On his way out, Lin Bai saw a few dead spirit beasts. The bodies of these spirit beasts were trembling slightly, as if they were about to come to life. This made Lin Bai feel extremely uneasy. There. Luo Ningyu pointed ahead. Not far away, there was a crack that was about to close up. Lin Bai suddenly exerted strength under his feet. The two of them and the beast escaped from the formation in the nick of time. As soon as Lin Bai stepped outside, he immediately looked behind him. The crack that they had just escaped from had disappeared, and the mountain behind them, just by standing outside, they could feel a demonic aura that reached deep into their spinal cord. Under the night sky, the whole mountain seemed to swallow all the light, and it was the darkest one even in the dark night. How is it? Did I break the formation? Haha. Thank me. Luo Ningyu. Remember to bring a good bottle of wine to thank me when you come back. The jade pendant let out a hearty and confident laugh. Luo Ningyu's voice was cold. We escaped, but we escaped when the formation had a crack. Now, the formation has become intact again. As expected, if I make a move, all of you will be able to escape safely. Huh. Wait, you said that the formation is intact again? That's impossible, impossible. The voice from the jade pendant was filled with disbelief. What's the situation now? Tell me everything, don't leave out any details. Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu's understanding of the array formation was very minimal, so they could only tell the person on the side of the jade pendant everything. The jade pendant was silent for a while, then suddenly cried out, "Run! Don't stay by the formation, run!" Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu looked at each other, then quickly raised their legs, intending to run away. But just as they took a few steps, the patterns of the formation appeared under their feet. In the next second, they only felt darkness in front of them, as if their bodies were crushed and flattened. With a blinding light, Lin Bai finally opened his eyes. He subconsciously looked to his side. Luo Ningyu had just returned to her senses and was standing beside him. Under their feet was the dizzy little blue. Hey, did you guys run? What's the situation? A worried voice came from the side of the jade pendant. Phew, Luo Ningyu let out a breath. We didn't run out. It seems like we triggered some kind of spell. Before Luo Ningyu could finish her sentence, the jade pendant dimmed. Hey. The voice from the jade pendant stopped abruptly. Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu looked around. Familiar buildings, familiar stockade, familiar stench, black cloud stockade. Lin Bai quickly turned around and saw that not far away was where the chief of Black Cloud Stockade lived. They had actually been teleported here? Hee, are you finally clear-headed? A voice rang out in the darkness. The voice was very sharp and ear-piercing, as if someone was constantly scratching the blackboard with their fingers. Lin Bai frowned. Who? Hee, just now I really had to endure it. I almost couldn't help but kill all of you directly. You actually almost ruined my business. The voice in the darkness got closer and closer. Then, a 2-meter-tall, muscular man with a layer of demonic chi on his face appeared. Lin Bai urged his spiritual power to gather at the acupoints around his eyes, but he still couldn't see the real face of this person through the black chi. Then, another person walked out from behind the burly figure. There was a shocking scar on his face, from his temple to his neck, and half of his ear was cut off. Luo Ningyu cried out in surprise, Black Cloud Stockade leader, Lungzhua? The person who walked out from behind was Lungzhua. Lungzhua glanced at the two of them indifferently and stood respectfully behind the burly figure without saying a word. There are still more people. After saying that, Lin Bai looked behind him warily. In the Black Cloud Stockade, other than the third and fourth brothers, the other leaders were all standing behind them. However, apart from them, Lin Bai also saw two figures. One of them was Qilong, and beside Qilong was the man in black, Lu. Heh, you guys are really lucky. You actually didn't die on that mountain. However, it's good that you escaped. It's good. Qilong looked at the furious Luo Ningyu and licked his lips. His eyes kept darting around his body. Qilong opened his mouth again. He wanted to say something, but when a gaze swept past him, his forehead was covered in sweat. His face was pale, and he quickly shut his mouth. The burly figure sneered, "You can call me C. I believe that this human girl has already seen through my background. I didn't expect that my territory would be discovered by you so quickly. It seems that we have underestimated you." Lin Bai didn't need to think to know that C was talking about the organization behind Luo Ningyu. "As for you," C looked at Lin Bai, "it was you who ruined our plan in the city. It's not bad for an outsider to do this." C glanced at Little Blue again. Little Blue immediately grabbed Lin Bai's pants and didn't dare to let go. Si retracted his gaze and took a light step forward. As he took this step, the entire black cloud stockade trembled. "I'll give you two choices. First, submit to me and become my slaves. As long as you don't go against me, I can spare your lives. Second, die." C's tone was extremely calm, as if he was talking about everyday life, but the content of his words was extremely overbearing. Qilong opened his mouth once again. He wanted to say something, but ultimately did not say it. "Before that, I have a question. What about him? Who is he?" Lin Bai said coldly. He turned around and looked at the man dressed in night clothes beside Qilong, Lu. "Heh." C laughed. "Your gaze is still quite sharp. His identity is indeed not simple. However, this is not something that you can know unless you submit to me." Lin Bai looked at Lu's eyes. Lu's eyes were as calm as an ancient well without the slightest hint of emotion. Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu's eyes kept wandering around, as if they were trying to find out the other party's strength, comparing the difference in strength between the two parties. "Heh, you still want to resist?" C revealed a disdainful laugh. "Then I'll also make you give up." C raised his head and looked up. He placed one hand on his waist and raised the other hand gently. Suddenly, the aura on C's body rose steadily. As the aura rose, waves of air waves rolled in all directions with him as the center. Among the brothers of the Black Cloud Stronghold, two of them with lower cultivation were directly blown to the ground by the air waves. Then, the stone slabs under C's feet were directly shattered into powder, like fine sand. Lin Bai suddenly widened his eyes. He did not look at C, but at the mountain on the other side of the Black Cloud Stronghold. That mountain was where Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu had been trapped not long ago. At this moment, the demonic qi in that mountain seemed to have a connection with Cu. The demonic qi in the mountain was acting on C's body, giving C the power to destroy mountains and destroy the earth with every move he made. "You can absorb the demonic qi in that array formation?" Lin Bai's expression was incredulous. After Luo Ningyu heard Lin Bai's words, she revealed an even more surprised expression. She subconsciously took out the jade pendant and stared at the jade pendant with a doubtful gaze. "Ha ha ha, you are not too stupid. However, if you want to blame someone, blame your helper." "Ha ha, he mistakenly thinks that he's very smart, but he hasn't even investigated the essence of that formation." Although C could lie here and say that the helper that Luo Ningyu had invited had already betrayed her, but C's pride didn't allow him to do so. Moreover, he felt that for the two people who were about to die or become his subordinates, he did not have to choose any small tricks. After all, Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu did not have a choice, and he did not need to do anything. This was his pride as a demon. "Idiot!" Lin Bai cursed angrily, his face full of anger. The demon qi in the mountain had been increased by dozens of times by Luo Ningyu's helpers. This meant that the demon qi in C's body was also dozens of times more than before. C glanced at Lin Bai, his face full of satisfaction. "Then, tell me your choice. I don't have enough patience." "Haha, did you hear that? Our Lord is talking." "Lin Bai, what are you still struggling for?" Qilong laughed out loud. This time, C did not stop him. Not only Qilong, but a few leaders of the Black Cloud Stronghold also laughed mockingly. "Hey, little lady, wouldn't it be a pity if you died just like that?" Why don't you live and accompany us brothers first so that you know what it's like to be a god? Himph, do you guys still have a choice? Don't get your hopes up. Little Blue tugged at Lin Bai's pant leg, and Lin Bai bent down to pat its head. Lin Bai looked up at C. All right, we already have a choice. Luo Ningyu nodded at the same time. Oh. C glanced at the two of them and slowly placed a hand behind his back. So what's your choice? Our choice. Lin Bai stared at C's face, which was shrouded in demonic chi and couldn't be seen clearly. The third choice. Buzz. Lin Bai took out the small cauldron. The small cauldron glowed with golden light, and a gust of wind blew under his feet. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of C. Lunghua snorted and took out a large saber. He hacked down from above, and the surrounding light dimmed as soon as the saber came out. Luo Ningyu had already arrived in front of them. She brandished the thin sword in her hand and smashed it against the large saber again and again, dissipating the force in Longhua's hand bit by bit. Damn it, damn it. Let's go too. Qilong cursed and called out to the remaining leaders of the Black Cloud Stockade. They swarmed towards the two men and one beast. Little Blue had unknowingly arrived in midair. Suddenly, a black and gold light circulated around his body. In the next moment, his figure was like a blue comet, smashing directly towards the landmark. Bang! The ground caved in deeply, the stone slabs shattered, and the soil flew in all directions. It continuously trembled as it blocked Qilong and the others' attacks. Those who tried to stop Lin Bai had already been stopped by Luo Ningyu and Little Blue. At this moment, Lin Bai had already successfully arrived in front of C. The small cauldron in his hand was emitting a golden light that could not be looked at directly. Lin Bai looked at C. C was still standing in his original spot, not even moving an inch. Ignorant, C said calmly. Then, the hand he put behind his back waved towards Lin Bai. That hand was surrounded by demonic chi. Go to hell. Ants should have the awareness of ants, not wishful thinking. To be able to die under my demonic hand is the highest glory of your dim life. C looked at Lin Bai's expression. He went from putting his life on the line to despair. C could not help but feel relieved and wanted to laugh at the sky. However, in the next second, he saw a smile on Lin Bai's face. Is it really like that? Lin Bai said with a smile. Boom. At this moment, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Deep ravines appeared on the surface of the Black Cloud Stockade. C subconsciously looked to the left and looked at the mountain that was devouring the light. He started to curse. When did all of you? Damn ants, damn ants. The formation on Mount Wu suddenly collapsed for some reason. The demonic chi in it spread out in all directions, and the array formation inside it also collapsed bit by bit. As a result, C was severely injured. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and the palm that was slapping at Lin Bai slowed down. Lin Bai seized the opportunity and took a light step to the right. He pushed out the small cauldron in his left hand, and a beam of golden light full of Tao breath bloomed and smashed into C's chest. C flew backward and smashed through one house after another. Finally, he crashed into a cliff and his body sank deep into it. You. Cough. C's angry curses and coughs were heard. The corner of Lin Bai's mouth twitched. How could he speak? He felt that he had underestimated the life of the demon. Luo Ningyu and Little Blue landed beside Lin Bai and asked, How is he? You should be seriously injured or not dead, Lin Bai said in a deep voice. Haha. Luo Ningyu's jade pendant lit up again. You owe me a lot this time. If I didn't see through the formation, you would be dead by now. Thank you. Lin Bai was not stingy with his gratitude. When we meet, I will definitely thank you. Not bad, not bad. You have a better temper than some people. You are a good junior. The person on the other side of the jade pendant said in satisfaction. He even mocked someone present. The person on the other side of the jade pendant had sensed that there was something strange about the formation from the beginning and pretended not to notice that a small formation had been set up inside the formation. C and Lu saw all of this. But what they didn't know was that when the small formation was just set up, the person on the other side of the jade pendant had blocked C and Lu for a while. And in that very short moment, Lin Bai and the others set up a detailed plan. It was to let the person who set up the formation suffer a backlash. This way, Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu would be able to turn the situation around. However, I won't be able to help you guys from now on. You have to come back alive. Otherwise, won't my help be in vain? The jade pendant dimmed in the next second. Qilong and the others came late. They looked at Si, who was deep in the cliff and bleeding crazily. Sir, are you okay? Lin Bai, how dare you? Our lord will not let you go. Qilong pointed at Lin Bai and gnashed his teeth. It was as if he was not beaten by Lin Bai but his father. Lung Zhua appeared and blocked the only escape route for Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu. Lu! Si suddenly shouted. Lu, who was wearing a knight's suit, sighed lightly. Lord Lu! Qilong went over and was about to flatter him, but he froze on the spot. A bloody mark appeared on Qilong's head and Qilong looked up. But the next second, Qilong's skull was opened, and his body began to shrink and wither. Eventually, he became a mummy. Lord Lu, what are you doing? Qilong was a well-rounded person who knew how to interact with people. He had already connected with the Black Cloud Stockade's leaders and called them brothers. At this moment, the leaders of the Black Cloud Stockade were shocked when they saw Qilong become a dried corpse, and the one who attacked was still their lord, Lu. Do you think there's no one in my Black Cloud Stockade? The second brother's eyes were red and bloodshot as he roared and charged forward. A layer of green chi surrounded the second brother's body. With a series of cracking sounds, a long spear appeared in his hand, and the tip of the spear was pointed at Lu's glabella. The moment the long spear was pointed, the entire Black Cloud Stockade dimmed, and only the tip of the spear shone. Before everyone could react, the tip of the spear was only an inch away from Lu's glabella. In the next second, the tip of the spear was about to pierce into Lu's glabella and crush his brain. However, this second became extremely long. The fierce killing intent in second brother's eyes turned into confusion and finally turned into endless fear. Beads of sweat kept dripping down second brother's forehead. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva dryly. Huh, you think you can make a move on me? Lu sneered and glanced at second brother. Second brother maintained the posture of thrusting out his long spear. He could not move, but his expression and pupils revealed extreme fear. Second brother only felt that what looked at him was not a human, but an ice-cold deep pool, an ice mountain that would never melt, a terrifying existence in human skin. At this moment, among the leaders of the Black Cloud Stockade, two people looked at the leader and asked for help. Big brother, how can you bear to watch this outsider make a move on our brothers? When the remaining few people looked at the stockade leader, they seemed to have sensed something. They glanced around to make sure that no one was paying attention to them, then quietly hid themselves and turned around to run. However, before those few people had run a few steps, their eyeballs bulged out and they turned their heads back shakily. They opened their mouths but could not make a sound. Gradually, they turned into dried corpses that were no different from Qilong's. The scene changed so quickly that the people from the Black Cloud Stockade were stunned on the spot. A second ago, they were still looking at Luo Ningyu with lewd eyes, and they had all kinds of fantasies in their hearts. But now, they had become fish meat on the chopping board. They didn't even know why they had become like this. Leader of the stronghold. Big brother. Why, big brother? You are my brother in vain. In a series of hoarse voices, everyone, including the second brother of the Black Cloud Stockade, turned into dried corpses and fell to the ground. Everyone's dark eyes seemed to have endless unwillingness and resentment as they looked directly in the direction of the chief of the Black Cloud Stockade. The chief of the Black Cloud Stockade, Lung Zhua, indifferently glanced at the people lying on the ground. He was calling these people brothers yesterday, and yet he didn't have any emotion in his eyes. It was as if the people who died in front of him were just ants. Lin Bai glanced at Luo Ningyu. Luo Ningyu nodded slightly with an affirmative look in her eyes. Lung Zhua was definitely a character above the devil puppet. He was already the servant of the Si and Lu in front of him. However, Lin Bai didn't understand why Lu needed blood essence. If one wanted to temporarily increase their cultivation, then the blood essence of others wouldn't work. If he wanted to rely on the blood essence of others to permanently increase his cultivation, then the cultivation of the leaders of the Black Cloud Stockade would also be of no use. He would need hundreds of people with similar cultivation levels as the Black Cloud Stockade. However, Lin Bai did see the streams of blood essence appear in the air and pour into Lu's body. Then, what was the reason for Lu's thirst for blood essence? Who are you people, and what is your purpose? Lin Bai asked faintly. You don't have the right to know, Lu said with an overbearing tone. C pondered for a moment and said, haven't you already encountered it before? After saying that, C left Lin Bai with a smile that was filled with evil. Previously, C had used the demonic chi of the Wu Mountain to flood his body, but because of Lin Bai and the others, he was eventually devoured by the formation. Although he was smiling, he was actually trying his best to use his cultivation level to repair the injuries on his body. The injuries from the spell formation's backlash couldn't be compared to other injuries. Some of the injuries even affected his meridians and primordial spirit. It wasn't something that could be healed in a day. C should have already lost the ability to fight. Then, what Luo Ningyu and I need to deal with is this Lu who's wearing a night suit. Whoosh! Just as Lin Bai was in deep thought, Lu's figure flashed on the spot and appeared behind Luo Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Lu's eyes were sharp and his body was filled with killing intent. His palm was ruthless and decisive as he slapped towards Luo Ningyu's back. This palm contained endless demonic chi. The moment it struck out, it was as if the starry sky had dimmed. Luo Ningyu's eyes were dazed for a moment. However, in that instant, this palm was about to land on Luo Ningyu's back. Buzz! A blazing and holy golden light flashed. It stuck onto Luo Ningyu's back and smashed towards that palm. Himph! Lu snorted coldly and forcefully retracted his palm. His feet moved slightly and his figure disappeared once again. Luo Ningyu felt as if she had been through the gates of hell. When she saw that Lin Bai had helped her force Lu back, she heaved a sigh of relief. Be careful! Lin Bai cried out in alarm. At the same time, the small cauldron and long sword in his hand struck out with a bang. Luo Ningyu's expression changed drastically. Who knew that Lu's attack would fail? After pausing for a moment, he launched another sharp attack. Lu appeared above Luo Ningyu's head and struck out with his palm. This palm strike was sinister and vicious, with a tricky angle. Lu glanced in Lin Bai's direction and saw that Lin Bai's attack had already arrived. However, he did not retreat like last time. Instead, he increased the strength of his palm. Just as Lu's palm was about to strike down, Luo Ningyu felt something tied around her waist, and her body retreated rapidly to the right. At the same time, Lu's palm landed on the ground. Boom! The entire Black Cloud Stockade shook. The few buildings closest to them collapsed and sank deep into the ground due to the cracks that spread out from the ground. Who is it? Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Go and call the chief. Big brother, there's an enemy attack? The ordinary bandits of the Black Cloud Stockade woke up from their dreams. They were like flies in the stronghold until they saw Lung Zhua and the others standing at the top. Luo Ningyu's face was covered in a thin layer of cold sweat. A strand of her hair stuck to her face and a few drops of sweat on her white neck. She looked at Lin Bai gratefully. Lin Bai nodded slightly. Hey, I didn't expect that you could force Lu to retreat. C smiled meaningfully. However, it's all in vain. Lin Bai looked at Lu, who was already beside C. Lu was also looking at him. Lu's eyes were very strange. They were filled with repression, murderous intent, rage, calmness, and all kinds of complicated emotions. Seeing that Lin Bai's expression was cold and didn't even show much fear towards Lu Bai's cultivation, a ball of fire started burning in his chest for some reason. The burning made the sea feel proud. The burning made the sea wish he could tear Lin Bai's hands off. He wished he could take Lin Bai's eyes off to take a look. Why did he always look so calm and composed? His strength is abnormally terrifying. As for C beside him, I'm afraid he's already heavily injured. You can leave it to me to handle. At this point, Luo Ningyu was no longer trying to show off. After 2 exchanges, she knew that she was no match for Lu. If it wasn't for Lin Bai by her side, she would have died many times. Luo Ningyu also believed from the bottom of her heart that she had made the right choice not to investigate this matter further on her way here. And bringing Lin Bai along with her in the capital was also the right choice. If she chose the wrong one of these two choices, Luo Ningyu didn't dare to think about the consequences. Big brother, why aren't you saying anything? Who are these people? Look, there's second brother's corpse on the ground. What's going on? The corpse is so shriveled, as if it's been dead for a long time. Damn it, it was you who attacked second brother and the other leaders? The bandits of the Black Cloud Stockade stood not far away and saw Lin Bai and the others clearly. C reached out a finger and picked his ear. He looked at Lu and asked, "Isn't it a bit noisy?" Lu nodded slightly, but after nodding, Lu had disappeared. How did that person disappear? How did he disappear? Ah, this person is a madman, a madman. Big brother, come and save us. In an instant, the bandits were in a mess. Lin Bai turned his body and looked down. One by one, the bodies of the bandits were hit by Lu, sending pieces of flesh flying and blood spewing out. In just a few breaths, the entire village was filled with a thick smell of blood. Luo Ningyu glanced sideways at Lin Bai and used her eyes to ask if Lin Bai wanted to stop her. Luo Ningyu didn't mean to stop him to save the bandits. She didn't feel any emotions towards the bandits' deaths. If it weren't for Lu helping her, Luo Ningyu might have killed them personally in the future. She wanted to stop him from continuing to suck the blood essence. Lin Bai shook his head. It seems that he didn't eat blood essence to improve his cultivation. It's strange. Hey, it's strange. Do you want to know? C opened his mouth and said with interest, "It's not that I can't tell you." Lin Bai glanced at C but didn't ask. C gritted his teeth. There was fire in his eyes. It was Lin Bai's eyes that made him very unhappy. Not long after, the entire Black Cloud Stockade fell into silence. Amidst the silence, there was a thick stench of blood. The blood that flowed on the stronghold had soaked the soil and turned it into a bloody mess. Lu appeared beside C once again. He shook his right hand gently, and the stinky blood was thrown down. Lin Bai raised his eyebrows slightly. He noticed that there was not a single drop of blood on Lu's body other than his right hand. He had killed so many bandits in such a short period of time, yet not a single drop of blood fell on his clothes. Lin Bai could not help but raise his vigilance. Lin Bai calculated the gap between the two sides in his heart. If Luo Ningyu and Little Blue could delay and even kill the heavily injured C and Longshua so that Lin Bai could face Lu alone, there was still a chance. Those who are in the way are gone. C's voice was filled with anger. Lu, let's not delay. I think so too. As soon as Lu's voice fell, he disappeared into the darkness. When he reappeared, he was already at the back of Lin Bai's head. Bang! Lu waved his palm again. This palm seemed to be surrounded by thousands of vengeful spirits, emitting waves of heart-palpitating cries. Soul attack? Lin Bai's eyes were in a trance for a moment before he reacted. No wonder Luo Ningyu could not dodge Lu's attack a few times earlier. It turned out that Lu's palm could affect the soul and sea of consciousness of others. Buzz. The small cauldron's golden light burst forth. A ball of golden light that was about to materialize appeared above Lin Bai's head. Lu's eyes revealed a look of surprise, but his attack did not stop. It smashed heavily towards that ball of golden light. Lu only felt that after his attack entered the golden light, the force seemed to be absorbed and dissipated bit by bit. Petty tricks. Longshua had unknowingly arrived before him. The long saber in his hand slashed downwards from top to bottom. This saber was filled with overbearing saber intent. He vowed to cut down everything in this world. The saber intent had arrived before the saber. If Lin Bai had not been prepared beforehand, he would have been affected by this saber intent long ago, allowing Lu's palm to successfully attack. I'm still here. The thin sword in Luo Ningyu's hand fluttered and smashed onto Longshua's blade like rain hitting a banana. Bit by bit, it devoured the force on the blade. C's palm flipped, and a ball of black light directly smashed towards Luo Ningyu. Little Blue let out a soft cry and used its tail as a cudgel to smash onto the black light. When its tail was about to come into contact with the ball of black light, the black golden light on Little Blue's body blossomed. Bang! The black light smashed into a tree in the distance. In the span of a breath, the tree turned black, decayed, and turned into a pool of foul-smelling liquid. Xiao Lan's mouth was wide open, and his eyes subconsciously looked at his tail. After seeing that his tail was intact, he patted his chest and let out a long breath. Damn it! C stared at Little Blue. However, he was still a little surprised. He didn't expect that an ordinary spiritual beast could actually deflect his attack. Moreover, this spiritual beast didn't know how vicious his attack was. This made C look at Lin Bai with a burning anger and a bit of naked greed. This Lin Bai still has many secrets. C said to Lu. The meaning of this sentence was to capture him alive as much as possible. If he couldn't capture him alive, he had to ensure that Lin Bai's soul wasn't damaged. Lu Bai retracted his palm. His feet floated as he distanced himself from Lin Bai. All right. With that, Lu Bai's figure disappeared once again. Bang! Lu Bai appeared once again and struck out with his palm. Lin Bai seemed to have predicted his position and struck out with the small cauldron in advance, blocking Lu Bai's attack. I'm gradually catching up with Lu Bai's rhythm. Next, I'll find his mistake. While Lin Bai was muttering in his heart, he looked at Luo Ningyu and Little Blue from the corner of his eyes. Luo Ningyu was fighting with Longzhua. Even though Longzhua's blade was extremely domineering, he couldn't do anything to Luo Ningyu's rain-like attack. Little Blue was fighting with the heavily injured C and had the upper hand. Seeing this, Lin Bai looked away and looked at Lu, looking at his evil eyes. Let me see your strength. Lu's cold eyes glanced at Lin Bai. He paused and said with disdain, You think you have a chance by relying on some little tricks to make C suffer a backlash? You didn't see through such little tricks. Does that make you even more useless? When Lin Bai said this, he deliberately glanced at C, who was entangled with Little Blue, and deliberately increased the volume of his voice. C, who was already displeased with Lin Bai, seemed to be ignited by gunpowder. His hands suddenly grabbed upwards, ignoring Little Blue's attack. He tightly grabbed Little Blue's tail and gritted his teeth. Bang! Little Blue was thrown out. After crashing into one tree after another, it sank deep into a stone wall before stopping. A mere human dares to make a ruckus in front of me? C was already furious. His tiger-like eyes were filled with fury as he charged towards Lin Bai with all his might. And with every step he took, the ground would tremble. Lu's eyes rolled around. He seemed to have some doubts in his heart, but he and C had already formed an encirclement. Coupled with his own pride, he quietly pushed out a palm towards Lin Bai's back. There was the aggressive C in front and the sinister and ruthless Lu in the back. Luo Ningyu took the opportunity to see this. Her eyes were full of fear. The thin sword in her hand was dancing like the waves, trying to hold out for a breath to support Lin Bai. Do you think that this round is so easy for me? Longzhua said disdainfully. The knife in his hand was swinging wildly. He completely gave up on defense and switched to attacking as a defense. After a few rounds, Luo Ningyu didn't dare to relax even a little. She didn't even have time to support Lin Bai. She could only look at C and Lu, who were only 1 meter away from Lin Bai. Luo Ningyu's eyes suddenly showed a hint of determination. Her aura gradually began to rise. This made Longzhua feel as if he was facing a great enemy. His eyes stared at Luo Ningyu, full of disbelief. Clang! At this moment, C's body froze for a moment, and a faint green light surrounded his feet. Lu glanced at the dense forest on the left. As if he had thought of something, he suddenly exerted force on his calves, and his palm was like a beam of light that was difficult for the naked eye to catch, smashing towards Lin Bai's back. However, a towering flame came from the right, sweeping up rolling heat waves, burning everything on the road. It opened up a pair of fire mouths and swallowed Lu, forcing him to only be able to move his legs. Splash! Blood splattered everywhere. C's arm flew out, accompanied by a heart-wrenching scream. Lin Bai gently shook off the blood on his hand. In the next second, the long sword in his hand was already swung out, aiming straight for C's neck. Lin Bai had already noticed Little Red and Little Green not long ago, so he played along. He deliberately provoked C, putting himself at a disadvantage in a pincer attack. When C and Lu decided that Lin Bai was in a disadvantageous position and arrogantly thought that even if he played some tricks, he wouldn't be able to escape from them easily, it was time for Lin Bai to exert his strength. First, he let Little Green control C. Because of the difference in strength between C and Little Green could only control C for a moment. But in that instant, coupled with Little Red's cooperation to force Lu back, Lin Bai could easily injure C. You! C felt the sword chi approaching from behind him and roared furiously. In the blink of an eye, dense demonic chi that was so dense that it had materialized appeared on C's broken arm. It formed the shape of an arm and smashed backwards at a strange angle. Bang! The demonic hand smashed onto the long sword, causing sparks to fly. Lin Bai looked at C's demonic arm in surprise. His attack did not succeed, so he decisively retreated to the back. He had achieved his goal, which was to seriously injure C again. C roared in anger, like a mad beast, and rushed toward Lin Bai. Lin Bai stood still and didn't move. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. You're really like an uncivilized beast. When C heard that, his anger became even more intense. The arm that was formed from demon chi expanded several times in a breath. It turned into a palm that was even bigger than C's and grabbed at Lin Bai. I'm going to pull out your tendons, pull out your bones, and use your soul for the everlasting lamp. However, 3 small beasts appeared in front of C. Little Green was attacking and controlling them from a distance. Little Red was breathing flames from above, and Little Blue was fighting C in close combat. C could only look at Lin Bai in front of him with a smile on his face. Although he wanted to kill him, he couldn't do it at all. Sigh. At this moment, a sigh echoed through the entire black cloud stockade. C, you're too anxious. This voice seemed to have some kind of demonic energy that made C, who was almost driven mad, calm down. It made his eyes, which were filled with anger, dim a little. Don't forget our plan. Yes. C's tone was no longer filled with anger. In the battle with the 3 small beasts, C, who had almost lost his mind, was in an absolute disadvantage. But after this demonic voice, C regained his mind. His gaze fell from Lin Bai, who was staring at him, to the 3 small beasts in front of him. Lin Bai looked to the side. Lu Jing was standing there quietly, looking at him with a pair of cold eyes. That voice was from Lu. Lin Bai was more and more curious about Lu's identity. He could actually make C regain his mind with just one sentence. Even though this had ruined Lin Bai's plan, Lin Bai didn't think C would be able to solve it so easily. You seem to be a little special? Lu looked at Lin Bai. His scarlet tongue licked his lips, revealing the gaze he used to look at his prey. Humans can only choose between a martial artist or a beastmaster. However, you not only have profound power as a martial artist, but also have extraordinary, spirit beasts with terrifying potential. Not just 1, 2. It seems like you still have a lot of secrets on you. Before this, Lu had only treated Lin Bai as an ant. However, after gradually exchanging blows with him, he felt that Lin Bai was hiding a very big secret. As soon as Lu's voice fell, he disappeared from where he stood. At the same time, Lin Bai heard a whistling sound in his ear, and his body only had time to sink downwards. Bang! Lu's palm swung out and smashed into a tree in the distance. A shallow palm print was left on the trunk of the tree. There was a ball of black in the center of the palm print, and it started to spread at a speed visible to the naked eye. In 2 breaths, it covered the entire tree. The night wind blew gently. The tree was like a ball of dust, a ball of fine sand, and disappeared in the wind. Seeing this scene, Lin Bai felt a chill run down his spine. Before this, he had planned to confront Lu directly and test the strength of his palm. No. At this moment, Lin Bai sensed that something was wrong with his body. The spiritual chi around him seemed to have drilled into his body, and the turbid and filthy spiritual chi was slowly affecting him. Lin Bai's head buzzed, and the wails of thousands of resentful spirits resounded in his ears. This ball of spiritual chi was like a primer, a bait, causing the surrounding demonic chi to sweep towards Lin Bai. Lu was not going to let go of this great opportunity. His figure was like a ghost, not making a single sound. He quietly appeared in front of Lin Bai and gently pushed out a palm. Lin Bai clenched his teeth tightly and used all the spirit energy in his body to suppress the flow of the tainted spirit energy. At the same time, The spirit energy gathered on the tip of his feet. With a sudden burst of strength, his body jumped high into the air toward a spirit deer. Bang! Lu's palm missed, and another towering tree was turned into dust in the sky. Let's see how long you can hold on. Lu's figure disappeared again and appeared in the high sky. He struck out a palm from the bottom to the top at a tricky angle. Lin Bai didn't dare to be careless. He protected the small cauldron and the long sword in front of him and blocked the attack steadily. However, his body was still thrown backward due to inertia. Lu sneered and his face was gloomy. He did not give Lin Bai any time to catch his breath. He appeared in front of Lin Bai once again. His two hands, which were surrounded by dense demon chi, slapped forward fiercely, sweeping up a strong wind and waves. Luo Ningyu was quite a distance away from the two of them, and they were in a back-to-back position. However, after this attack, Luo Ningyu still felt waves of palpitations in her heart. She began to wonder if she could withstand this attack. She wanted to help Lin Bai, but Lung Zhuo's strength seemed to be inexhaustible. He used all sorts of moves, but his expression did not change. Even his aura did not change. This was the power of the demon's servant. Luo Ningyu glanced back, planning to trust Lin Bai this time. Luo Ningyu herself could not explain why she chose to trust Lin Bai. It was a trust that came from the depths of her heart. Lin Bai faced the aggressive attack with a calm expression. Although his body was still in the air, he had already started moving. Lin Bai stabbed the long sword in his hand to the side, and the blade of the sword sank into the tree trunk. As Lin Bai retreated, the blade of the sword gradually began to bend until it was 90 degrees. But at the same time, the inertia on Lin Bai's body had been cancelled out. He kicked the tree trunk with one leg, and his body and the sword flew to the other side. He narrowly avoided Lu's attack. Lu's eyebrows raised slightly, but there was no surprise on his face. He said, "Hey, interesting." After Lin Bai landed steadily on the ground, his feet floated, and he put some distance between himself and Lu. Lin Bai took advantage of the short gap to stabilize his breath. If he hadn't been quick-witted and forced his way out of the situation, he would have been caught in Lu's rhythm and would not have been able to take it. In the end, he would have lost to him. Lin Bai also knew that he could not delay any longer, so he decisively injected a quarter of his spirit energy into the small cauldron. Suddenly, the small cauldron bloomed with an ancient and holy light that was filled with Tao rhythm. It was like a bright lamp in the corrupt darkness, illuminating Lin Bai. Lin Bai let out a long breath. This breath carried a wisp of impure spiritual energy. The spiritual energy around his body returned to normal and circulated smoothly in the meridians around his body. All the discomfort he felt just now had disappeared. This was an ability that Lin Bai had discovered by accident while he was pondering over the small cauldron's ability these past few days. It was able to let the small cauldron's pure Tao rhythm fill his entire body, repelling the demon chi or filth that was tainted his body. However, Lin Bai did not expect that he would use this method. When Lu saw Lin Bai expel the turbid spiritual power from his body, a rare look of surprise appeared on his face. When Lu looked at Lin Bai and the small cauldron again, Lu's eyes had a hint of greed in them. After Lin Bai quickly recovered and adjusted himself, his eyes were fixed on Lu, observing his eyes and every small movement of his. Lu did not use any weapons, or rather, he had not started to use them yet. Even so, Lu's palms had already been practiced to perfection. It was possible that he was practicing some kind of heaven-reaching skill. Not only did the palm force contain poison, it would also inject tainted spiritual energy into the opponent's body, affecting the opponent's meridians. This was the first time Lin Bai had seen such a sinister and vicious skill. At most, he could only hit Lu's tainted spiritual energy once. If he hit more, he might not have enough spiritual energy to activate the small cauldron to eliminate it. Just as Lin Bai was thinking, Lu had already silently approached him. Lin Bai took the lead and took a step forward. His long sword was like a cold ray of light, piercing toward Lu's usual hand. His other foot was instantly pulled out from the bottom to the top, kicking toward Lu's kneecap. When Lu Bai saw that Lin Bai was the first to attack, he originally wanted to use offense as a defense and planned to strike out with his palm. However, The sword light that followed made him have no choice but to dodge. However, just as he took a step horizontally, a leg was quickly pulled over, bringing with it a powerful gust of wind. Interesting. In an instant, Lu, who had fallen into a passive situation, did not show any fear on his face. Instead, there was a hint of excitement on his face. Crack! A sound that made Lin's scalp tingle rang out. The foot that Lu had stepped out of caved in midair and fractured. At the same time, Lin Bai pulled out a foot and kicked the air through the cave space. When Lin Bai was about to make another move, Lu had already been pushed 10 meters away. Lu was standing in an open space. His right knee was fractured and caved in, while his left foot was standing straight. Crack! The sound that made Lin Bai's scalp tingle rang out again. He saw Lu bend down and forcefully use his hands to straighten his sunken knee. The scene made Lin Bai's mouth twitch. He had seen many people who were ruthless to him, but he had never seen someone as ruthless as Lu. Not only did he not hesitate to hurt his own hands and feet, he did not even blink his eyebrows. It seems that I have underestimated you. As Lu spoke, his right foot swayed back and forth in the air as if he was trying to confirm whether there was a problem. In the end, he quietly put it down. Although I still want to play with you a little more, it's a pity that I have no choice but to go all out. Lu's voice was calm, but one could feel the coldness of falling into an ice cave. Then, although Lu was still standing in the same position as before, Lin Bai could feel the demon chi around Lu's body boiling and gathering around him. Lu's eyes turned extremely scarlet, and his cold face turned a bit more sinister. Then, a shocking scene happened. The blurry shadow behind Lu started to grow stronger and wriggle. However, Lu just stood there and didn't move at all. Just when Lin Bai didn't know what was going to happen, the shadow behind Lu had already turned into a huge monster. Roar! A loud and ear-splitting roar came from Lu's shadow. A 5-meter-tall demonic wolf with scarlet eyes and a completely black body surrounded by demonic aura and its nails emitting a dim red light jumped out from Lu's shadow. Lin Bai looked at it carefully and came to an unbelievable conclusion. This demonic wolf was not an illusion, but a real monster with flesh and blood. And it actually jumped out from Lu's shadow. No, this was not a spiritual beast. Lin Bai quickly determined that the demonic wolf in front of him was not a spirit beast at all. However, it was flesh and blood, a living creature. While Lin Bai was still in shock, the demonic wolf had already pounced forward. It waved its dark red sharp claws and ferociously clawed at Lin Bai. Lin Bai subconsciously moved his feet to his side and slightly stepped forward. However, from the corner of his eye, he saw a figure approaching him at an extremely shocking speed like a ghost. The step that Lin Bai took heavily landed on the ground, causing the ground to sink deeply. In the next second, his entire body was like a compressed spring, directly dashing towards the demon wolf in front of him. Lu was slightly stunned. Although he did not know what Lin Bai was up to, he knew that he had to stop him no matter what. Just as he was about to make a move to stop him, he brushed past Lin Bai. The eyes of the demonic wolf that was in midair rolled around as it saw a human figure approaching it. It felt an instinctive sense of danger. It opened its bloody mouth and spat out a few rays of scarlet light, but it was easily dodged by the person. The demon wolf roared and its 2 sharp claws clawed at Lin Bai, who was below it, with a loud sound of air being pierced. Bang! Lin Bai heard the sound of air being pierced and decisively took out the small cauldron to protect his body. The small cauldron collided with the claws, making a deafening sound. At the same time, the long sword in Lin Bai's hand stabbed straight at the left side of the demon wolf's ribs. Poochie! Blood gushed out from the left side of the demon wolf's ribs and poured down. Lin Bai only felt a thick, stinky black liquid splashing onto his body. However, when he heard the demon wolf's heart-wrenching roar and how it fell heavily to the ground after losing its strength, Lin Bai let out a long breath. Little Red, Little Green, and Little Blue were entangled with C. Little Black acted as a guard in the convoy to prevent those spirit beasts who were affected by the demonic aura and who were cast by Lu's secret technique from attacking the convoy. If he did not choose to deal with Lu and the demon wolf first, he would have to face the situation of 1 against 2. Even though it was only a single exchange, Lin Bai could feel the power of the demon wolf. In the situation of 1 against 2, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. When that time came, a blink of an eye, a second of absent-mindedness, and a small mistake would cause him to die at the hands of 1 man and 1 beast. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, clear clapping sounds were heard from afar. Not bad. You actually managed to injure my demonic wolf. You should be quite proud of yourself. The corners of Lu's mouth were raised high. His eyes were half closed, revealing a fake smile. Lin Bai was just about to say something. Gulp, gulp, gulp. The sound of bubbles appeared. The demon wolf that was originally lying on the ground slowly stood up. This strange sound was coming from its body. The left rib of the demon wolf started to swell with black bubbles, flesh. The balls were densely packed, but the blood that was pouring out stopped, and the wounds that could be seen with the naked eye quickly healed. Before long, the demon wolf had already walked to Lu's side, and its eyes were staring at Lin Bai. The look of being on the verge of death had completely disappeared. It was as if the heavy injuries it had suffered just now were fake. Roar! The demon wolf raised its head and roared loudly at the bright moon in the night sky. Lin Bai only felt that his vision was in a trance for a moment. There was a mysterious power behind the demon wolf's roar. He hurriedly filled his ears with spiritual energy to resist the sounds of the outside world. However, when he could clearly see the things in front of him, he saw the demon wolf and Lu Yi attacking him from both sides. The demon wolf had learned its lesson this time. Instead of jumping up high, it opened its mouth and spat out many arcs, sealing off Lin Bai's escape route. Lu Bai's figure was half hidden in the dark night. Only his pair of scarlet eyes were exceptionally dazzling and strange. A moment later, a man and a beast approached Lin Bai and launched a cold coordinated attack. Lin Bai gave up on using the small cauldron to attack and used it in front of his chest to resist all kinds of attacks. Even so, Lin Bai still felt that it was quite difficult. Lu also felt a headache. From the beginning, Lu had believed that Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu could be easily dealt with by Xi alone without his help. Even if he encountered some problems, they could also be dealt with by Lung Zhua of the Black Cloud Stronghold. However, Lin Bai had brought him surprise time and time again. Even now, under the pincer attack of him and the demon wolf, everything around them had turned into ruins. The small hill where the two of them and the demon wolf were standing had been leveled to the ground by all kinds of powerful and fierce attacks. When facing him and the demon wolf, Lin Bai had been at an extreme disadvantage at first, but he had found the rhythm step by step. From the disadvantage to now, he could fight with Lu Bai and the magic wolf on equal footing. What's wrong? What's with that expression? Lin Bai naturally would not let go of any opportunity to attack Lu. Whether it was physically or mentally, he said mockingly. At the beginning, he did not even have a second to spare. However, at this moment, he was able to spare a bit of energy to mock Lu. Lin Bai also felt that this was a little miraculous. Perhaps, after he was in an extremely dangerous life-and-death situation, the gains that the system brought to him were slowly being absorbed by his body and put into practice. Lin Bai suddenly urged a large amount of spiritual power into the small cauldron. Buzz! The small cauldron suddenly shone with golden light. In this darkness, it was like a small sun. A holy light that was filled with Tao rhythm and laws swept towards the demon wolf. It was extremely fast, and the demon wolf only had time to swing its claws in front of it. At the same time, it spat out a few arcs. When Lu saw this attack, he also felt that something was wrong. He hurriedly struck out 3 palms towards the golden light. Bang! An intense explosion sounded. The ground where the demon wolf stood was deeply caved in, and deep ravines and cracks spread out in all directions. Weren't you very strong just now? Lin Bai laughed lightly and stepped on the ground. His body was like a long rainbow as he arrived in front of the demon wolf in the blink of an eye. He waved the long sword in his hand and was about to chop off the demon wolf's huge head. After a few exchanges, Lin Bai was already very clear. It was true that the demon wolf had a very strong self-healing ability, but it seemed to be unable to heal the wounds of severed heads and limbs. An unprecedented fear appeared in the demon wolf's eyes. It looked at the long sword as it slowly approached. The demon wolf once again opened its mouth and spat out a few arcs. The sharp claws in its hand slashed towards Lin Bai's arm. However, these attacks were steadily received by the small cauldron. There wasn't even a trace of a scratch on it. Poochie. Just when Lin Bai thought that victory was certain, he spat out a mouthful of blood with a stupefied expression. The spiritual energy in his veins was rampaging, rolling, boiling, and surging uncontrollably. A clever person is hindered by cleverness. Ha 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 ha. Lu smiled as if his scheme had succeeded. Lin Bai quickly guessed the reason. After he had been hit by Lu's insidious tainted spiritual power, he didn't really force it out of his body. Instead, there was still a trace of spiritual power hidden in Lin Bai's veins that Lin Bai couldn't feel. Actually, I don't want to use him just like that. Lu felt that victory was in his grasp, so he slowed down and slowly approached Lin Bai. The demon wolf next to him also glared at Lin Bai with an arrogant gaze. It was waiting for Lu's order to tear Lin Bai into pieces. However, you have too many secrets. Lu's lips curled up. If I don't do this, I might suffer the consequences. Why don't I refine you into my most loyal and irrational puppet? This way, all your secrets and everything on you will become mine. Lu's scarlet eyes were filled with greed. Pa. Lu snapped his fingers. At this moment, the demon chi in the surroundings gathered and surged towards Lin Bai. The more the demon chi gathered, the bigger and denser it became. Lin Bai felt the demon chi begin to erode his skin and flesh. His body. If it was just the erosion of the demon chi, the current Lin Bai could easily stop it. However, the erosion this time was not so simple. The demon chi outside resonated with the tainted spiritual power in his body. It was not more like a bridge or something. Lin Bai gritted his teeth, and his brain worked quickly. That's right. Lin Bai suddenly had an idea. He continued to pour his spiritual power into the small cauldron, and then he guided the Tao rhythm law inside the small cauldron to crazily pour into his body. After completing this step, Lin Bai stopped blocking the demonic chi and allowed the demonic chi to erode and pour into his body. Eh? When Lu saw this scene, he was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed contemptuously. Although I don't know what kind of clever trick you're playing, don't struggle fearlessly. Give up. Lin Bai guided the Tao rhythm laws of the small cauldron as he carefully sized up Lu and the demon wolf. Lu Bai said that he wanted to turn Lin Bai into a real puppet and walk around leisurely. This made Lin Bai very puzzled. Shouldn't Lu directly imprison him and seal all the meridians and acupoints on his body? Wouldn't be the most efficient method? After all, Longjua and Si were still engaged in a bitter battle in the distance. Soon, Lin Bai thought it through. It was not that Lu did not plan to attack Lin Bai, but that he could not attack Lin Bai now. Although he did not know the reason, Lin Bai firmly seized this opportunity. Lin Bai put his whole body and mind into the meridians in his body and carefully guided the Tao rhythm law that came out from the small cauldron, circulating it in every meridian in his body. At the same time, he used spiritual power to envelop the demon chi in his body, slowly bringing the demon chi into the meridians in his body and circulating it through every single meridian in his body. If anyone knew what Lin Bai was doing at this moment, their faces would definitely turn deathly pale, and they would loudly cause Lin Bai for being a madman and not caring about his own life. He planned to rely on the Tao rhythm law in the small cauldron to wash away the vast amount of devilish chi in his meridians and use it for his own use. The meridians in his body were the most fragile and mysterious existence. Even the slightest distraction would cause his meridians to be completely destroyed. At that time, Lin Bai would become a powerless person and be at the mercy of Lu Bai in front of him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Bai's chest sank deeply and swelled up again. The spiritual power in his body surged and boiled to the extreme, while his meridians swelled up bit by bit. Slowly, Lin Bai spread out the spiritual power that wrapped the demon chi, exposing the demon chi in his meridians. Buzz. The small cauldron shone with golden light. The Tao rhythm laws in Lin Bai's meridians seemed to be burning up as they surged violently. At this moment, Lin Bai only felt tens of thousands of needles stabbing into his body. The intense pain caused his face to turn pale, and bean-sized beads of sweat dripped down from his forehead. But Lin Bai did not give up. Because the demonic qi that was exposed in his veins was being purified bit by bit, they turned into a pure power that was directly absorbed by Lin Bai's veins. An enormous power filled Lin Bai's entire body bit by bit. Correspondingly, the intense pain caused Lin Bai to let out a heart-wrenching scream. Suddenly, Lin Bai opened his eyes. His originally black eyes were now dyed with a layer of golden yellow, as if two golden rays of light were shooting out. How is this possible? Lu exclaimed, his face full of astonishment. He simply couldn't believe what he was seeing. Impossible. Impossible. How is this possible? I don't care if it's possible or not. It's already happened. The corner of Lin Bai's lips curled up. The pain from before had disappeared from his face, and his pale skin gradually regained its color. However, his wet clothes were still telling him about the intense pain from before. Lu's scarlet eyes swept past Lin Bai and stared at the small cauldron that was glowing with golden light. Whoosh! However, at this moment, Lin Bai's figure suddenly disappeared. Lu secretly cursed. He had already guessed Lin Bai's actions. As he chased after him, he shouted, "See! Be careful! See! Be careful!" Under the siege of the small beasts, C pulled back a little. He wanted to take advantage of this gap to figure out what had happened. However, just as he moved his eyes to his side, he saw a figure appear. A strong sense of danger came over, making C's heart beat faster and faster, as if it was about to jump out of his throat. C couldn't care about anything else. He launched a fierce attack like a storm, while he suddenly retreated toward Lu. However, just as C took the first step back, his body froze for a moment. C gritted his teeth and activated the surrounding demonic qi. However, at this moment, C saw the scene around him begin to spin continuously. In this spinning scene, he saw a tall and sturdy corpse with blood spurting out of its neck. I am dead? Si's mind was filled with this question as his vision fell into endless darkness. Lin Bai. Lu roared. In the end, he was one step too slow. After Lin Bai used the demonic qi and the small cauldron for his own use, his sudden burst of speed made it impossible for Lu to catch up at all. He could only watch helplessly as C's head flew out from his neck. Do you know what this is called? This is called, one's cleverness mistakens him. Lin Bai revealed a warm smile. He had found a balance between the Tao rhyme law and the demon qi amidst the heart-wrenching pain, and now he no longer needed to concentrate on the vein. You. Lu's scarlet eyes seemed to be spewing flames as he glared at Lin Bai. He wanted nothing more than to slice him into 1,000 pieces. The blood vessels on his neck suddenly protruded. Under Lu's gaze, the corners of Lin Bai's mouth curled up slightly. He smiled and said, "I didn't expect you to be a person who values friendship and loyalty. Or do you have some other hobbies?" Lu clenched his teeth so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. He clenched his fists so tightly that they emitted bursts of explosive sounds. C was a very important part of his plan. Otherwise, why would he cast the entire Wu Mountains array formation on C? However, it was this important part that was killed by Lin Bai. Even the remnant soul was obliterated by Lin by using the Tao rhythm laws that surrounded him. Not even the remnant soul was left. Even if an immortal came, there was nothing he could do. Thinking about the painstaking efforts he had put into the sea, thinking about his step-by-step plans, they were all destroyed today. If I don't kill you today, it will be difficult to resolve the hatred in my heart. Lu roared. As he roared, dense black clouds appeared above the entire black cloud stronghold. A moment later, the stars and moon in the night sky disappeared, and the torches that could be seen everywhere in the black cloud stronghold dimmed. Ignorant. Lin Bai stood with his hands behind his back, looking down at the world. He looked coldly at Lu's roar and made his final struggle. Luo Ningyu and Longjue stopped fighting and turned around to look at Lin Bai and Lu, as well as the strange phenomenon in the sky. Luo Ningyu especially saw Lin Bai's back. He looked like a heavenly monarch with a majestic aura, looking down at the world. It was as if in his eyes, the world was filled with dust. Luo Ningyu's heart started to palpitate. When the remaining small beasts saw Lin Bai like this, They first felt that he was unfamiliar, then they were ecstatic. They all came to Lin Bai's side and used their bodies to rub Lin Bai's clothes intimately. This was no wonder. Not only was the Black Cloud Stronghold's demon chi present, even the Devil Mountain that Lu had painstakingly built, which was also the demon chi on the Wu Mountain, had also formed a huge whirlpool with Lin Bai as the center, crazily surging into Lin Bai's body. If it were anyone else, their body would have long been penetrated by a huge amount of demon chi and could not withstand the explosion. However, Lin Bai was different. Whether it was demon chi, corpse chi, demonic chi, all kinds of chi in the world were one kind of energy. He used the divine law on the small cauldron to wash away the shocking demon chi that rushed into his body into pure spiritual energy, turning it into his own. It could be said that Lu triggered the tainted spiritual energy in Lin Bai's body and manipulated the secret technique to let the demon chi erode him, which helped Lin Bai greatly. It was like Lu putting a rare treasure into Lin Bai's mouth. Lu also knew what Lin Bai had done. He stared at Lin Bai with his blood-red eyes and said, "Humph, using the demon chi for your own use? Naive, do you know how powerful the demon chi in this area is? Haha, when your body is filled with spiritual power and your meridians are unable to withstand it, you will self-destruct and die without my help." After Long Zhua heard Lu's words, a hint of relief appeared on his solemn face. When he looked at Lin Bai, it was as if he was looking at a walking corpse. A hint of worry appeared on Luo Ningyu's stern face. She bit her lips tightly with her pearly white teeth. Her eyes were shining brightly. No one knew what she was thinking about. "You're right," Lin Bai admitted decisively. However, not only did his tone not show any signs of weakness, there was even a hint of contempt in his tone. It was as if he was laughing at Lu. "Ha, you're just a stubborn duck. I've killed thousands of people like you. Which one of them didn't kneel in front of me when they were about to die and beg for their life?" Lu clenched his teeth and made cracking sounds. Lin Bai's confident look was unbearable to him. He wanted nothing more than to bite, tear, and chop him into pieces. If it were anyone else, they might have lost their lives here. But how can I, Lin Bai, be an ordinary person? Lin Bai lightly snorted, and his voice reverberated for thousands of miles. Countless spiritual beasts in the forest trembled when they heard him, and they crouched on the ground, not daring to make the slightest move. Lin Bai scanned his surroundings. He realized that his 5 senses had already reached a terrifying level, and his every move seemed to be able to move mountains and fill the seas. However, Lin Bai knew that this was an illusion. It was brought about by the flourishing spirit energy in his meridians. It was just that this boundless spirit energy had already opened up the meridians one by one. It would not be long before it was unable to withstand even a single strand of spirit energy surging into his body. It was almost done. The corners of Lin Bai's mouth curled up slightly. Then, he bent down and touched Little Green, who was spitting out its tongue. "System, I want to impart my cultivation to Little Green." Ding. The host has passed on 400 days of cultivation to Little Green. Successful triggering of 10 times of return. The host has received 4,000 days of cultivation. Continue. Ding. The host has passed on 400 days of cultivation to Little Green. 20 times of return has been successfully triggered. The host has received 8,000 days of cultivation. Continue. Ding. The host has given Little Red 400 days of cultivation. 2 times of return has been successfully triggered. The host has received 800 days of cultivation. Continue. The host has given Little Black 400 days of cultivation. 10 times of return has been successfully triggered. The host has received. A series of cold voices sounded in his head. The small beasts under Lin Bai's feet were surging with energy. Little Green's body grew bigger, and the scales on its body were like jade. It opened its mouth and shouted softly. Roar. A dragon-like roar resounded through the world. Little Red's body was covered in flames, as if it was a real sun. It flapped its wings lightly, and the entire Black Cloud stronghold was set ablaze. A moment later, the entire stronghold was reduced to a pile of ashes. Little Black's gaze was deep, and his aura was steady, like a calm sea. His body was surrounded by endless water vapor, and the shell on his back seemed to be flowing with water light. Little Blue's body grew bigger and bigger. From a little macaque, he became as tall as an adult. The patterns in his hair actually materialized, and they stuck tightly to his body. Crack. Just as everyone was stunned, a crisp sound rang out as if something had been broken. At the same time, a pillar of light appeared around Lin Bai and shot into the clouds. The dense black clouds in the sky were shattered by the pillar of light. In the sky of 500 miles, only the dim starry sky and the indestructible pillar of light remained. Not only that, there seemed to be 7 colored flowing lights appearing around Lin Bai's body. There was also a multicolored glow under his feet. Numerous ancient and simple Tao rhythms resounded. Lin Bai slowly opened his eyes. Following his opening, the strange phenomenon around him disappeared. Lin Bai's eyes were incomparably deep and his body stood there quietly. It broke? Luo Ningyu muttered. She was unaware that her voice had already trembled slightly. There was a watery light flowing within her eyes and her chest was thumping nonstop. Lu Dai, do you think you can do anything to me just because you've broken through? Lu clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. His eyes were fixed on Lin Bai. He had never thought that his hard work and his secret skill would become someone else's wedding dress. An endless stream of complicated emotions emerged. Shock, regret, anger, ruthlessness, killing intent, and fear. The demon wolf next to Lu Bai was also staring at Lin Bai. 2 rows of white teeth flashed out, and it couldn't wait to rush up and tear Lin Bai into pieces. Even a beast like you dares to look at me like that? Lin Bai's voice was very calm, but in Longjua and Luo Ningyu's ears, it was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. At the same time, Lin Bai pointed at the demon wolf from afar. An unparalleled aura emerged from Lin Bai's fingertips, and that aura turned into a ray of white light. The demon wolf's eyes changed from anger to surprise, from surprise to fear, and finally to endless despair. Light walls appeared around the demon wolf's body, and its body doubled in size. Its 2 front claws were like 2 crescent moons, and it suddenly clawed at the ray of light. Puff! The white light easily pierced through the demon wolf's front claws. Even its sharpest and sturdiest claws were pierced through by the white light as if it was cutting through tofu. Lu was furious. He struck out palm after palm, and deep ravines appeared on the ground in front of him and the demon wolf, turning the other side of the world into ruins. The grass and trees were crushed into powder, the houses collapsed and shattered, and the small hills were razed to the ground. However, the speed of the white light did not stop, nor did it slow down. Puff! In the blink of an eye, the white light pierced through the forehead of the demon wolf. The body of the demon wolf was like a broken balloon. It collapsed bit by bit, and soon, it collapsed into a pool of demonic chi. It's dead? Luo Ningyu looked at the demon wolf in disbelief. She had seen the means of the demon wolf, and of course, she knew how difficult it was to deal with. However, at this moment, the demon wolf was defeated by Lin Bai's finger. No, it's not that simple. Luo Ningyu looked ahead. The demon wolf's body that had collapsed into demon chi gathered together again, forming a tall shadow. Then, it solidified bit by bit. However, in the next second, not only Luo Ningyu, but even Longjua was shocked. The demon chi wanted to gather into the demon wolf again, but for some reason, every time it wanted to materialize, the demon chi would collapse again. After a few times, the phantom of the demon wolf collapsed again. This time, it was unknown whether the demon chi had disappeared into the night or into this world. You still want to materialize, but you're just a small fry, a beast. Lin Bai stood with his hands behind his back. His expression was calm as he glanced indifferently at the demon wolf and Lu Bai, whose eyes were about to pop out. Even when the demon wolf was the closest to materializing, Lin Bai's face didn't show any fluctuations. Lin Bai. Lu's eyes were about to split open, and his hair stood on end in anger. His blood-red eyes shot out 2 beams of 30 feet long blood-red light, and the demonic chi around him gathered like a cape, gathering behind Lu. Lu stretched out his hand and waved it in the air. The demon chi was like armor, sticking close to his body, and cracks began to appear on the ground dozens of meters around him. Following Lu's angry roar, the ground of the entire black cloud stronghold shook. At this moment, Lu was like a devil god descending. "Looks like that beast is very important to you." Lin Bai smiled gently. Facing Lu, who was like a demon god, his gaze could not help but remain calm. It was as deep as a deep pool, conceited and ignorant. Lin Zhuo's expression turned serious. He looked respectfully at the demon-like figure of Lu. He even bowed deeply to Lu and said, "Lin Bai, even if you killed the demon wolf, do you think you can deal with Lord Lu? You're arrogant and ignorant. At this moment, you're like a toad looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. You don't know how terrifying Lord Lu is." "Oh." Lin Bai turned around and glanced at Lin Zhuo. Lin Zhuo, who was caught by Lin Bai's gaze, seemed to have been struck by lightning as he took a few steps back. At the same time, Lin Bai gently raised one of his hands and said, "You're from the human race, but you've submitted to the demon race. You deserve to be killed." After saying that, Lin Bai's raised hand gently descended. A white light that looked like the waning moon appeared out of thin air and slashed toward Lin Zhuo with lightning speed. The space around the waning moon started to distort. "This move can distort the space?" Luo Ningyu felt her scalp go numb as she stared at the white light that looked like the waning moon. A single strike could distort the space. Distort space. Only these two words remained in Luo Ningyu's mind. Since ancient times, only people who were like gods on land could distort the space. However, there might not be a single person who could do it every few hundreds of years. And once it appeared, a terrifying thought appeared in Luo Ningyu's mind. "Do you think that you can still make a move in front of me?" Lu roared angrily. His body turned into a black shadow and appeared in front of the white light that was like the waning moon in the blink of an eye. He suddenly struck out with his palm. Bang! The white light of the waning moon shattered. A deep ravine that was dozens of meters deep appeared on the ground between Lin Bai and Lu. This ravine extended from the top of the black cloud stronghold to the foot of the mountain. When Lin Zhuo saw the white ray of light approaching, he had completely given up on resisting. However, when he saw the white ray of light collapse, he became extremely excited. "Lord Lu is extraordinary." Lin Zhuo was just halfway through his sentence when he could not finish his words. He caught a glimpse of Lin Bai, who was dozens of meters away, suddenly disappearing. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Lu. A huge palm appeared in the deep space of Lu and pressed down from above. "Arrogant, too arrogant." Lu shouted and slapped out his palm. A palm with 5 fingers closed appeared above him and collided with the illusory palm that was pressing down like Mount Tai. Strong winds blew in all directions, causing sand and rocks to fly everywhere. The top of the black cloud stronghold shifted to the flat ground. Although Luo Ningyu and Lin Zhuo wanted to help, they had no choice but to retreat in the face of the strong winds in the aftermath of the battle. 10 meters, 20 meters, 40 meters, 80 meters. After retreating 100 meters away, Luo Ningyu finally stopped in front of a house that had been burned to ashes. She looked forward with worry in her eyes. Phew. Lin Zhuo also retreated to the side of a cliff and let out a deep breath. He thought that he would be seriously injured if he was hit by the aftershock just now. If that was the case, then the difference between him and Lin Bai and Lu was like the difference between heaven and earth. While Lin Zhuo's mind was spinning rapidly, he felt a cold wind coming from his neck. In the next second, he had goosebumps and his body was covered in cold sweat. Lin Zhuo couldn't care less. He rushed towards Lu without turning his head. "Lord Lu, save me, save me." Lin Zhuo screamed in fear. He wanted to run towards Lu with all his limbs. From the corner of his eye, he could see Lin Bai in a white robe appearing behind him. Then, Lin Bai stepped lightly on the ground and appeared beside Lin Zhuo. "You don't deserve to be human," Lin Bai said indifferently. His hand turned into a knife and waved towards Lin Zhuo. "Lord Lu." Lin Zhuo couldn't care less. He immediately burned all the blood essence in his body and activated his natal spiritual qi. A fierce spiritual power emerged. He could only clench his teeth and attack Lin Bai again and again, but his feet didn't stop for even a second. After doing all this, Longzhua raised his head and looked at Lu. He saw that Lu was smiling. A sense of security rushed into Longzhua's chest, and the fear disappeared in an instant. Lu smiled cruelly. You are my slave to begin with. It is your honor to die for me. As Lu spoke, he formed a hand seal with his 10 fingers, and the demonic chi turned into threads that connected his 10 fingers to Longzhua's body. Lord Lu, what are you saying? I am willing to be your pawn. Lu squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying, but his body expanded little by little, turning into a round meatball with a diameter of 3 meters. Lin Bai, run! When Luo Ningyu saw this round meatball, she cried out in surprise. It's too late. Lu threw his head back and laughed loudly, showing that he had the victory in his hands. Then, his little finger turned downwards at a strange angle. At this moment, the entire black cloud stronghold fell silent. Everything in the surroundings seemed to have come to a standstill. In the blink of an eye, a huge amount of demonic chi was compressed into Longzhua's body. The demonic chi was compressed to the extreme. Bang! A loud explosion sounded in the sky. A beam of light shot up to the sky from the top of the black cloud stronghold, and the ground within 500 miles shook. The sky trembled as if the stars and moon were about to fall. After an unknown period of time, the sky returned to its original state of silence. The huge black cloud stronghold had returned to its original state of flat ground. The forest within a radius of 100 miles was also affected and completely destroyed. Luo Ningyu stood up from the ground with great difficulty and looked at her surroundings in great shock. She looked ahead. As far as her eyes could see, there was only a flash of realization, but she could not see a single Holy Spirit. Luo Ningyu seemed to have heard something. She lowered her head and quickly ran over. How are you guys? The moment Longzhua was self-destructed by Lu's secret skill, Lin Bai had his 4 spiritual beasts escort Luo Ningyu away. Little Green and Little Red were the fastest. They carried Little Black, Little Blue, and Luo Ningyu up, allowing them to escape to the edge of the explosion. Little Black was even more powerful. He helped the remaining 3 small beasts and 1 person to withstand the power of the explosion. After Little Black was exhausted, Little Blue hurriedly withstood the aftertaste of the explosion. Otherwise, the current Luo Ningyu might have been blasted into pieces. Lin Bai's 4 spirit beasts collapsed not far away. Little Black, who was spitting out water mist, had a shocking dent on its back. Little Black and Little Red collapsed on the ground weakly. After hearing Luo Ningyu's words, they wanted to get up, but they were exhausted. Little Blue stood up shakily and stood in front of Luo Ningyu, looking at a pitch-black mountain in the distance. Luo Ningyu followed Little Blue's gaze and looked over. In the sky above the pitch-black mountain, there was a demon figure standing proudly in the air, roaring towards the sky. Ha 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 ha, Lin Bai. Do you think that you have victory in your hands? Do you think that I was doing work in vain and benefited you instead? Little did you know that you humans are just like ants. You can only be eroded by the demon race and become the stepping stone of our demon race. Lin Bai. Luo Ningyu did not believe Lu's words and roared towards the desolation in front of her. However, what responded to Luo Ningyu was endless silence. Haha, do you still think that he can exist in this world? Not only his physical body, but even his soul should be destroyed by me. He has truly been destroyed in body and soul. Lu stood high in the sky and looked down as he said arrogantly. Little Blue's 2 rows of fangs only bit down, emitting a series of cracking sounds. After turning into a ray of blue light, it soared into the sky and attacked Lu, who was standing proudly in the sky. A mixed-gened little beast dares to attack me? Lu snorted coldly, and from top to bottom, he swung out the demon lord's palm. Just as this palm was sent out, the sky seemed to be pressing down. Little Blue only felt as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him, but he did not have any intention of retreating. Wong. The patterns on Little Blue's body began to light up. At this moment, a human figure appeared behind Xiaolon. He stood there quietly, exuding an imposing aura without being angry. Little Blue used only its physical body to punch at the sky. Crack, crack. The sound of shattering rang out. The palm that Lu threw out completely dissipated. Oh! Lu then looked at Little Blue with interest and said, I didn't expect that I would be the one who made a mistake. However, you are only as... As Lu said this, demonic chi surrounded his palm, and he threw out another palm strike. This palm strike seemed to be light, but it contained endless power. As soon as it was struck out, the shadow behind Little Blue dimmed a little. Little Blue struck out once again, but this time, its body was like a weed as it crashed heavily into the ground. Imph, just become my demonic pet. You must have a heart of gratitude. After all, being able to serve by my side should be a supreme honor for a mixed-blood beast like you. After Lu said that, he did not even look at Xiaolon as he turned his gaze towards Luo Ningyu. Do you think that Lin Bai can still survive? Lu's voice was very calm as he gently glanced at Luo Ningyu. Luo Ningyu, on the other hand, felt as if the heavens were pressing down on her body. She almost knelt down, but Luo Ningyu stubbornly fought back. She gritted her teeth and looked straight at Lu. Of course, Luo Ningyu said with absolute confidence. Even Luo Ningyu couldn't tell where this confidence came from. Ignorance, ignorance. In this world, ignorance is the most terrifying, Lu said. He slowly stretched out a hand and gently clenched it in the air. Ah! Luo Ningyu spat out a mouthful of blood. She felt as if she was grabbed by something, and her bones began to crack. Luo Ningyu wanted to break free, but the force was so strong that she could not move at all. She could only be carried into the air by the force and slowly floated towards the direction of the ground. Little Black glared angrily and wanted to help Luo Ningyu. But at this moment, a black light appeared out of nowhere above Little Black. Bang! The black light smashed onto Little Black's body. It made Little Black sink into the ground, not moving at all. It was unknown whether it was dead or alive. If I didn't have any use for you beasts, do you think I would show mercy? You don't know what's good for you. Lu snorted and no longer looked at Lin Bai's beasts. Instead, he looked at Luo Ningyu, who was as beautiful as a fairy. I've exhausted too much this time. You can become my dual cultivation partner and help me nurture my demonic chi. In the end, let me pick it. When Lu said this, his eyes swept over Luo Ningyu. Lu laughed excitedly. It didn't matter how strong Lin Bai was. It didn't matter how many tricks Lin Bai had. Wasn't he just a pile of dust now? And this woman who was attached to Lin Bai had already become his exclusive possession. Ha 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 ha. Lu laughed loudly at the sky, his laughter reverberating for hundreds of miles. Ha ha ha. But right at this moment, another laugh rang out. Lu, who was originally roaring towards the sky, suddenly stiffened. His laughter also came to an abrupt end, leaving only another laugh. How is this possible? Lu looked down in disbelief. Lin Bai? Tears appeared in Luo Ningyu's eyes as she looked down in excitement. The black cloud stronghold, which had been in ruins, had turned into a flat ground. A man in white stood on top of it. The man stood there quietly, but he was not angry at all. The surrounding space seemed to be under his control. You said I'm dead? Lin Bai looked at Lu indifferently. Lu couldn't help but shiver. He was the one who made Longjua self-destruct, and only Lu knew the power of that self-destruct. Even when Lu was at his peak, he couldn't withstand that kind of self-destruct. But why? Why was Lin Bai standing there? Lu was stunned. Lu was confused. Lu was terrified, and Lu roared. Impossible! 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 Lu stood high up in the sky and waved his palm down one after another. Each palm contained Lu's full strength. A strong wind blew in the surroundings, sending sand and rocks flying. Even rocks that were half the height of a person were blown into the sky by the strong wind. Impossible? Lin Bai laughed lightly. With me, Lin Bai. What's impossible? With one hand behind his back, Lin Bai pointed a few fingers in the air with his other hand. At the same time, a few rays of white light appeared and easily dispersed Lu's attack. When Lu saw Lin Bai easily destroy his attack with a few fingers, it was as if he had seen a real ghost. The terror on his face could not be hidden at all. Lu gritted his teeth and waved his hand toward the ground. Luo Ningyu, who was originally high in the sky, was heavily thrown to the ground. At the same time, Lu threw out two more palms toward Luo Ningyu, who was falling to the ground. After doing all this, Lu ran towards the direction of Wu Mountain. "Don't mind me. Catch him," Luo Ningyu yelled at Lin Bai. Although she didn't know what Lu was going to do, a bad feeling welled up in her heart. She looked at the ground that was gradually approaching and the few palms that were slapping down from above, but there wasn't a hint of fear on her face. Instead, she smiled faintly. Was death scary? Scary. She did not know why, but when she saw Lin Bai standing there and looking down at the world, she felt that it was not so scary anymore. However, at this moment, Luo Ningyu saw a white light appear in front of her eyes, following which a warm and strong body gently carried her up. Accompanied by the whistling of the wind and the backsliding of the surrounding scenes, she saw a person with a smile on the corner of his mouth, a determined gaze, and a confident appearance. Luo Ningyu was stunned for a second. Then, she thought of something, and her beautiful face flushed red. She pulled her hands together, and her calves could not stop jumping. She was like a small beast that was being captured and wanted to escape. She said, "Don't let him escape. He definitely doesn't have good intentions." "Okay." Lin Bai nodded with a smile. "You stay here." Luo Ningyu wanted to say that she would go with him, but she stopped. She took out a jade pendant and threw it to him. "Okay." Lin Bai glanced at the jade pendant and held it in his hand without saying anything. In the next second, Lin Bai left some medicinal pills behind. His figure turned into a white light and ran toward Wu Mountain. The entire Wu Mountain was pitch black. Even the moonlight could not shine in, and it was unusually quiet. Lin Bai stood on top of the mountain and looked down. All he could see was dense demonic qi. The dense demonic qi covered the surface of the mountain, so dense that even the grass and trees could not be seen. Lin Bai suddenly seemed to have sensed something. He picked up the jade pendant in his hand and only heard a cry of alarm. "Not good, not good, not good. Luo Ningyu, are you still there? Run quickly. Don't even look back. Run quickly." That is not an ordinary array formation. That is an array formation that allows the devil domain to reappear. There is another place that is connected to the real devil world, and that mountain has endless devil qi. And this array formation is able to mobilize endless demon qi for his own use. Although there is a corresponding price to pay, it can be said to be an easy price to get rid of all of you. At the same time that exclamations sounded from within the jade pendant, a towering palm suddenly appeared on the surface of Wu Mountain, grabbing towards Lin Bai. Lin Bai's figure flashed, and he moved 100 meters away. He grabbed an empty palm and smashed it heavily on Wu Mountain. The entire Wu Mountain started to tremble and almost collapsed. "It's too late," Lin Bai said to the jade pendant. "It's too late?" The voice on the other side of the jade pendant sounded confused. "The person who set up the array has used his last resort." After Lin Bai said this, no matter what the jade pendant shouted, he still put the jade pendant away. Lin Bai looked in the direction of the altar on Wu Mountain. There was a terrifying aura surging there. "Haha, do you understand? It's a pity that it's too late." Lu's voice rang out. This voice was like the might of the heavens, resounding through the heaven and earth, but the source of the voice could not be caught. Rumble. The entire Wu Mountain trembled, trembling. A demon figure that was at least 100 meters tall slowly stood up from the direction of the altar on Wu Mountain. It wore a cloak that was condensed by endless demonic qi, and its pair of blood-red eyes were like a full moon. This shadow looked exactly the same as Lu. The shadow was like a real demon king that looked down on the world, as if it could destroy everything with a single move. "I didn't want to use it at first," Lu's voice rang out, and it seemed to have demonic power. Even Lin Bai's was affected. "Unfortunately, you forced me to." Lu stretched out his hand in Lin Bai's direction and clenched it. More than 10 towering hands appeared on the mountain of sorcery, grabbing towards Lin Bai's direction. Lin Bai pointed out several fingers consecutively, causing those towering hands to collapse. "Haha, how many times can you use such an attack?" Meanwhile, I'm currently communicating with the demon realm. The real demon realm has an inexhaustible amount of demonic qi. After settling the matter of Wu Mountain, Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu went to the northern region to join the organization behind Luo Ningyu, the Heaven and Earth Society. The purpose of the Heaven and Earth Society was to fight with the demons. After Lin Bai joined, he also learned that the demons had been coveting the human world. Incidents like Lin Bai and Wu Mountain had occurred many times in this world. At this time, the Winter Kingdom within the 10 countries of the northern region was invaded and infiltrated by the demons. Lin Bai and Luo Ningyu entered together, pretending to join the Winter Kingdom in an attempt to serve the demons. During this period, several generals of the demon race and the human race members began to doubt Lin Bai's identity. When they plotted to attack Lin Bai killed them one by one. After that, Lin Bai even blamed this crime on a person who had betrayed the human race. After that, Lin Bai was placed in an important position by the higher-ups of the Winter Kingdom. At the same time, he became a part of the core combat strength of the Winter Kingdom. Lin Bai gradually got closer to the higher-ups of the Winter Kingdom. He already knew that the royal family of the Winter Kingdom had been tempted by the demons. They wholeheartedly cultivated the demon path and attempted to live forever. For this, they were willing to sacrifice thousands of lives. At the same time, Luo Ningyu, who had sneaked into the Winter Kingdom with Lin Bai, suddenly disappeared. After Lin Bai's search and secret plotting, he discovered that a traitor had appeared in the Heaven and Earth Society. He had joined the demons to imprison Luo Ningyu and attempted to use her for dual cultivation. Lin Bai was furious. On this day, his slaughter reached across the entire Winter Kingdom, causing the entire kingdom to wail in grief. He had killed the demon monarch Haotian behind the Winter Kingdom, causing him to die in hatred. However, because of Haotian's final struggle, Luo Ningyu was cursed by the secret skill of the demon race. She had to use a devil embryo fruit in the demon world to save her. Then, Lin Bai ignored the obstruction of the Heaven and Earth Association and obtained the method to enter the demon world. He successfully sneaked into the demon world and disguised himself as Haotian. He obtained the help of the elder of the demon world, Yu. Yu had some doubts about Lin Bai's identity, but she could not produce enough evidence. She could only entrust Lin Bai with an impossible task. He had to go to the 10,000 demon caves of the demon world to retrieve the bone of an ancient heaven demon. Lin Bai had no helpers in the demon realm and pretended to agree. After nightfall, he used a secret skill to heavily injure Elder Yu. Yu chased after him and sent out tens of thousands of demon. However, Lin Bai hid in the demon realm. Before Elder Yu came out, he had already found out the location of the devil embryo fruit. Huh. Lin Bai shook his head and laughed lightly. Do you think I don't know the price you have to pay? Don't try to talk your way out of this. Use whatever tricks you have. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't have the time to use them again. Lu Yi's face was livid, and his huge fangs made cracking sounds. His blood-red eyes shot out a red light that was dozens of meters long. Then I'll grant you your wish. Just as Lin Bai had said, every second that Lu maintained this state, his body and soul would be corroded for a second. His previous attacks were only to force Lin Bai back, and he did not really want to use the power of this spell formation. Demon Qi gathered above the Wu Mountain, and the demon shadow formed by Lu turned into a demon shadow that seemed to go straight into the clouds. Lin Bai stood in front of the demon shadow like a drop of water in the vast ocean. Lu's enormous figure took a step forward, and as he took that step, thousands of demon shadows appeared on the Wu Mountain, howling and roaring as they swept towards Lin Bai. However, this was not the end. Lu held his breath and focused his mind. He retracted his arm and suddenly pushed forward once again. A palm that was like the divine might of the heavenly Tao was struck out, as if it wanted to destroy everything in this world. At the same time, the red light in Lu's bloody eyes enveloped Lin Bai. Lin Bai felt his body being restricted by the red light, and the circulation of spiritual power in his body slowed down. Just as Lin Bai was about to make a move, he seemed to have sensed something. He raised his head and looked up. At some point in time, a mountain-like palm appeared in the sky, crushing toward Lin Bai. This is more like it, Lin Bai said faintly. Buzz. The golden light of the small cauldron burst out like sunlight breaking through the darkness, enveloping Lin Bai's body. Immediately after, Lin Bai's body turned into a ray of golden light. This golden light illuminated a radius of tens of miles, making the night seem like it was daytime. The golden light bloomed from the inside out. At this moment, the sky-reaching palm from Lu in the sky also attacked. Boom! The earth shook, the mountains shook, and the mountains and rivers collapsed. The strong wind, which was dozens of times stronger than before, caused Luo Ningyu and the small beasts to fly high into the sky. They wanted to open their eyes, but they were forced by the strong wind to the point that they couldn't open their eyes. Everything around them seemed to have been destroyed, except for the whistling of the gales. After an unknown amount of time, the gales gradually dispersed. The horizon of the east wind had a hint of fishbelly white, illuminating the endless night, illuminating the pitch-black Wu Mountain, and illuminating a white robe that looked down on the world. Elder Yu guessed Lin Bai's plan and laid an ambush around the devil embryo fruit in advance. The moment Lin Bai successfully obtained the devil embryo fruit, she brought a group of demon to encircle Lin Bai. Lin Bai used his lifespan to activate the small cauldron and killed Elder Yu. After killing 2,000 devil generals, he successfully escaped from the demon realm. After returning to the human world, Lin Bai had yet to find Luo Ningyu. After Lin Bai was enraged, he realized that it was the Luo family who had forcefully brought Luo Ningyu back. Heaven and Earth Society had attempted to stop them, but they were heavily injured. Lin Bai was furious. He went to the Luo family and slaughtered his way from foot of the mountain. The Luo family's corpses all over the mountain. Luo Hong, the head of the Luo family, was furious and was easily killed by Lin Bai. But the Luo family's hermit, the ancestor of the Luo clan, Luo Ming, appeared. Luo Ming did not have much time left. After learning of Luo Ningyu's illness, it coincided with one of Luo Ming's secret techniques. Using the person cursed by the demon race as the source, he could activate a secret technique that would allow Luo Ming to advance further on the path of immortal cultivation. It would allow Luo Ming to gain another lifespan. On this day, Luo Ming and Lin Bai fought until the sky turned dark. In the end, with the Luo clan as the center, the area within 1,000 km was reduced to flat ground. Luo Ming was even destroyed in body and soul by Lin Bai. From then on, Lin Bai's name resounded throughout the 10 northern kingdoms. Luo Ningyu was successfully healed by the help of the devil embryo fruit. The two of them were so happy that they wept. They planned to become Dao companions from then on and walk freely in this world. After that, Lin Bai held his wedding. This wedding reverberated throughout the 10 northern kingdoms. Masters from all over gathered, and the royal families came to offer their gifts. On the night of the wedding, people from the demon realm appeared and 3 demon emperors appeared. The moment the demon emperors appeared, the sky turned dark and everything within 1,000 miles became a ghost realm. Lin Bai fought with the 3 demon emperors alone, and after using his last bit of lifespan, he successfully killed the 3 demon emperors. However, Lin Bai didn't have much lifespan after that and became a white-haired man. Di Tian, the founder of the Heaven and Earth Society, appeared and told Lin Bai that there was a 10,000-year ice spring in Beiming. If he went there, he would definitely be able to break through. Di Tian originally wanted to help Lin Bai, but he had no choice as he was entangled by demons. He couldn't get away at all, so he sent one of the Heaven and Earth Association Society, Wang Feng and Luo Ningyu, to go with Lin Bai to Beiming. Along the way, the people from the 10 countries of the northern region chased after Lin Bai time and time again. They didn't want to see an existence like Lin Bai appear, and they didn't want Lin Bai to recover his strength. Wang Feng and Luo Ningyu protected Lin Bai. Blood splattered for 3,000 miles, and Wang Feng's arm was chopped off. But in the end, the 3 of them finally reached the 10,000-year ice spring, and Lin Bai began his closed-door cultivation. When the demons received the news that Lin Bai was about to recover, Elder Yu and the demons of the Haotian lineage were furious. They attacked Lin Bai, who was in closed-door cultivation, in an attempt to kill him. Wang Feng burned his blood essence and activated his natal spiritual qi, killing a demon emperor, severely injuring a demon emperor, and defeating a demon emperor. Then, he died. The remaining 3 demon emperors attacked Luo Ningyu. Luo Ningyu was also heavily injured after holding on. Just as Luo Ningyu was about to despair, the sky above the 10,000-year-old ice spring started to shake, and 7-colored light appeared in the sky. There were even saints in the sky who were worshipping the 10,000-year-old ice spring. Not only did Lin Bai recover, but he also made another breakthrough. Lin Bai looked at Wang Feng and Luo Ningyu. He killed all the demons outside the 10,000-year-old ice spring and entered the demon realm again. He slaughtered more than 10,000 miles all the way to the demon city. On this day, there were 1,000,000 corpses in the demon realm. After Lin Bai successfully returned, all the masters who lived in seclusion gathered together and discussed the final battle with the demon race. They asked Lin Bai to help the human race as much as possible so that they could grow stronger and gain more battle strength. On this day, Lin Bai was crowned as Emperor Lin and took charge of the human race. 2 years later, he had a final battle with the demons. During the great battle between humans and demons, the human race suffered heavy losses. Although the residents of the 10 countries of the northern region had long been evacuated, every inch of the land of the 10 countries of the northern region was filled with the smell of blood. In the end, the demon monarch appeared and killed the 5 great battle strength of the human race with a single palm. Lin Bai roared in anger and fought the demon monarch until the sky turned dark. Mountains and rivers were shattered, and thousands of demons were affected by the battle between the two of them and turned into meat paste. The demon monarch saw that things were not going well and sacrificed the entire demon realm to become a real demon lord. Mountains were shattered as he breathed in and out. Lin Bai stood alone in front of the demon lord, in front of billions of people, and fought with the demon lord for the last time. He successfully destroyed the demon lord. After that, there was no more Emperor Lin in the human world, only a legend. There was only a mountain peak that was surrounded by clouds and mist that went straight into the clouds. There was an immortal couple and a boy and girl twin, living a warm life.